Are you ready for the weekend? Well, let's get started. Thank God it's Friday. It's me, LHMusic, and this is the all-new Time Factor Closing Thought video commentary for November the 4th in the year 2009. Let's get started, shall we? Let's do it. You know what that means? It's Chris Matthews. And Chris Matthews always talks about this enemy camp. You might think it's so smart about enemy camp. Well, later on, he's apologizing. Why is he's going to apologize to the enemy camp? Take a look and watch this, because you might believe your eyes long enough.
People there, I saw, if not resentment, skepticism. I didn't see a lot of warmth in that crowd out there that the president chose to address tonight. And I thought that was interesting. He went to maybe the enemy camp tonight to make his case. I mean, that's where Paul Wolfowitz used to write speeches for. Back in the old Bush days, that's where he went to rabble-rouse the "We're going to democratize the world" campaign back in '02. So I thought it was a strange venue.
I think we're used. I think you're right.
People there.
Why do I have to say this? Now, why do I have to say this? Enemy camp. Camp nonsense. What's the use about enemy camp? After he making a President Obama speech to West Point about Afghanistan calls the enemy camp? Well, well, funny how you libs are fascinated about trailer parks, Kool-Aid, and all that stuff. After a little bit of talking points of the day. If only you kids have original thoughts in a while, might be interesting. Well, here's your worst nightmare, Chris Matthews. Why can't you just apologize? Why can't you just apologize about calling West Point the enemy camp? And that's a very, very stupid thing to say, or or anyone's given civilized. And you would think you're so smart about this the stupid enemy camp. Well, guess what? West Point is not the enemy camp. The enemy camp is the enemy camp. West Point is West Point. Have cadets all this. Maybe you will listen. This is why it happens all the time. And here you are calling them the enemy of this one. It's gotta be the worst. It's gotta be the worst. It can't be. Hey. Now here's a bigger part of solution that you don't want to know about this one. What? And you might be waiting for an apology.
But first,
waiting for an apology. It doesn't take that long for 2 minutes. 2 minutes? Well, guess what? You apologizing for calling West Point Obama's enemy camp. Oh boy. But here's more of this story.
But first, I've gotten some very tough calls from parents of cadets and from former cadets at West Point about my saying last night that the president had gone to speak up there to maybe the enemy camp. I was talking about the skepticism I saw on the faces in the crowd as President Obama spoke. Also, of course, about how West Point was where President Bush went in 2002 to make his most hawkish speech before the Iraq War. Now, I've heard too many politicians say things like, oh, that was taken out of context to explain something they wish they hadn't said. Let me just say to the cadets, their parents, former cadets, and everyone who cares about this country and those who defend it, I used the wrong words. And worse than that, I said something that is just not right. For that, I deeply apologize.
Darn right
As
it
those
is.
who watch me regularly probably got right away, my point was that the military up at West Point was probably a skeptical audience for President Obama, given his strong position against the war in Iraq and generally more dovish image. I was wrong to make that conclusion based on the lack of applause or apparent enthusiasm in the ranks of officers and cadets last night. Cadets, one former cadet and a friend of mine just told me, aren't supposed to show that kind of reaction to a speaker. He, a former cadet, reminded me that soldiers, including those now in training to face the enemy, want wars to be fought effectively and ended as quickly as possible. I had no reason to assume that the cadets at West Point or their officers who were present last night are more hawkish than the president. People who have watched me over the years know I think of my strong devotion to this country and strong gratitude toward those who serve it in the military. It's because our military is so good and true, I want the civilians who make the policies and set the missions to get them right in this country's best possible interest. And by the way, it's something we're allowed to argue about in this country.
Oh, give me a break, will you? Give me a break. Give me a break, Chris Matthews. You might think it's so. Tell me it's hawkish. Hawkish? Who do you think you are? Hawkish of what? Of what? Of what? Chris, you got a lot to learn. Yeah, you got a lot to learn. Look me in the eyes. And you absolutely wrong. You apologize for once and for all. And the lesson is this. Never underestimate the powers of them have no excuses at all. Period. End of story. Now, I want to continue with this Tiger Woods scandal. You don't mind. If you cheated on your spouse, according to this Access Hollywood thing, why is Tiger Woods getting inside the car crash and all that stuff? Because here's the purpose. This is gonna be a scenario to you. There's a huge scenario about Tiger Woods cheating on her wife, and that is very, very stupid. That was very, very stupid. Think about this, Tiger Woods. How would you feel that you and your wife are cheating on hitting on girls like this? Your wife doesn't like it at all. So you better think it over. Think about this. You better learn your lesson, Tiger Woods, or else you'll be history for the rest of your life. Guess what? This is gonna be idiotic. Listen to this. According to what New York Times says, an unusual holiday message begins appearing this week in the nation's capital on the sides of buses and trains. No God, no problem. No God and no problem. Does it in the ads? Oh, wait, guess what? Here's your worst nightmare. Why are you telling me to have no gods? I heard no gods says no gods. Well, guess what? I'm a Christian Episcopalian. I believe in God. And you, all of you atheists, he says, try to tell us you have no gods. Guess what? You're crazy. You're out of your darn mind. Let me tell you something. To be or not to be, that is the stupid question that you ever heard in my entire life. And here's the problem. You have a problem with that. So get with the program, as far as we're concerned. And don't say it ain't so about this. No gods, no problem. Get in the holiday spirit. If you don't like it, too bad. I hope you do. Anyways, go to my website, LHMusic.TimeFactor.weebly.com for the all-new LHMusic Time Factor website. And so is my Time Factor newsletter at www.wix.com/LHMusic/ the all-new Time Factor newsletter. And guess what? Don't forget to Facebook me on my following webpage at facebook.com/LHMusic1, or follow me on my Twitter webpage at twitter.com/LHMusic. time. I gotta go. I'll see you back here on the radio, on Premier Radio Networks at Westwood One, and so is my television show here on Fox Nickelodeon after Back Halsey and just before Huckabee. I gotta go. LHMusic has to sign off. Have a wonderful weekend, and I'm gone. Bye-bye.